1. So this was last year, 2022. I'm a 31-year-old white man from eastern USA and was given a job as a tour guide driving visitors across Yellowstone National Park. My job is a very serious one, as I have to drive buses as I give my visitors a tour of the park. It was a 6-month seasonal position. I'm a 31-year-old man being given a room at a dormitory in the middle of the wilderness. I did enjoy my job in exploring the park. For the first time, I got to see wolves, grizzly bears, and bison. It was amazing to see geysers for the first time, too. I made a lot of friends as I explored the park. As a tour guide, I had to get a good amount of sleep in order to drive a bus full of visitors. But there are employees in the park that are either housekeepers, servers, security guards, retail, and office workers. They did come to the park to party in their dorms and not take their job seriously, but I did. Anyway, back to the story. It was 8:30 p.m. as I got in my bed. There were drunk people in the hallway shouting and blasting music while drinking. I was in bed trying to get some sleep because I had to do a 10-hour tour. From my bed, I shouted at them to quiet down like 2 times. They eventually did, left the building, and I was able to get to sleep. 30 minutes later, I suddenly woke up with a loud pounding at my door. Some guy was shouting, "Security!" A security was banging on my dorm door. He was banging so loud as if I committed a crime. As a person with autism, I freak out at things relating to police or bullies. Sadly, this guy was both. It was difficult to answer the door because I was not really dressed. I shouted to wait, but that caused him to bang even louder and scream security many times. Panicking, I rushed to get my clothes. The banging over the door and the screaming from the security guard was hurting my ears, and I was very frightened. I told him to wait and stop as I was getting my clothes on, but that made him angrier and he continued to bang on my door harder. Everything was shaking. He was screaming and then switched to a roar. I was panicking as I was trying to get dressed. I finally got dressed and answered the door. My heart stopped. My legs became jello. I couldn't breathe. All because of what was in front of me. That security guard was a giant. Call him Moose. His head nearly touched the ceiling of the hallway. His body was all bulky with extremely thick muscles. His head was bald, typical for a security guard, I suppose. He roared that quiet time is at 7 p.m. and roared a warning to be quiet. He even roared at me to answer the door whenever he knocks because he roared that I took too long to answer him. I couldn't speak to him as I was scared out of my mind. I just nodded and said, "Yes, sir," so he can go away. He stomped away out of the building, and I was shaken and teared up. Long story short, I did not sleep well at all. My tour was not a good one and needed a load of coffee to do my job. Moose was terrifying. He should never have been hired at Yellowstone if he treats people like that. What a horrifying night. I told this to my friends the following day. My friend Michael believed that the partygoers decided to call on me as a prank because I wanted to sleep. And they did not. I was just wanting to sleep, and they wanted to make my night miserable, which they succeeded. Michael was a former security guard for a hotel before someone complained to him about a guest being loud. When he got there were no loud noises, so he figured that they wanted to get an innocent person in trouble for fun, which was what happened to me. So after that night, I tiptoed into my dorm and make no sound, fearing he would come back. I even make sure my clothes are on before going to bed. I didn't have a roommate yet and eventually did a week later. I just traveled to different buildings to hang out with friends. Even got my own roommate who I became best friends with. Eat cafeteria food, worked out, as I try my best efforts to avoid another confrontation with Moose. Eventually he got fired and moved out of Yellowstone, and I was able to spend the rest of my season exploring and working as a tour guide. 2. Necessary context. This took place in an airplane game with a player-driven economy, where you can buy, sell, and fly planes for cash. I own a rare Antonov An-255, once the largest plane in the world within the game, and it was worth around 2 million cash at the time of this story. That amount of in-game money is very tough to get. Extra context. Before the plane's unfortunate destruction, almost every seasoned player had a copy of it, thinking it would be one chunker cash cow. But they eventually scrapped their copy for money because it wasn't really a good moneymaker at the time, and although rare, wasn't worth much. After the destruction, the value shot up dramatically to its current price because of the clout it gained from the destruction. And as the game expanded, it gradually became the cash cow everyone was wanting, which gave it its value at the time of this story. One day, while deciding to take my Antonov plane out for a stroll around my home airport, many people come up to my plane asking for screenshots. This is normal for every time I pull out my plane, so blah blah blah. I let them, and this one guy comes up to me in his own plane asking to trade. Enter our entitled kid.
Yeah, can we trade?
Sure. Insert boring trading montage here.
Yeah, how much do you want for that Antonov?
I ain't selling it, bro. It's very valuable to me.
Bro, please.
Bro, I can't. Otherwise, I don't got any good source of income. Cue the entitlement.
But it's my birthday.
Alright, happy birthday, but I still won't give it to you.
And my mom has cancer.
I'm dying of cringe inside. Okay, mate, best wishes to your mom, but I'm still not giving it to you.
Are you sure you got that plane the legit way?
What do you mean?
I know you hacked that plane. Give it to me or I'll have my admin friend ban you.
Are you legit serious right now?
Yeah, I know you probably scammed someone or hacked that plane and give it right now.
Wanting to just tease and irk him, I said, okay, fine, I'll trade it.
Yeah, you made my mom with cancer happy.
Alright, man, let's just get this over with. In the trading menu, I give him a starter plane and he foolishly accepts it without checking the offer.
Finally, I have a rare plane, and thank you for giving up your 100% stolen or hacked plane. Bill, this is a Cessna. Why did you give me this? Yes, I'm reporting you.
At this point, I leave the game. 3. So part of my morning routine on my way to work at 5:30 in the morning is to stop at a little convenience store for coffee and a breakfast sandwich. While getting my coffee, I notice a woman behaving slightly strangely, staring at me while I get my coffee cup lid, knocking over a bunch while she got her own, just flustered in an odd way. I wrote it off. People aren't themselves so damned early. I get in line behind her. There are 4 or 5 people ahead of us, but the cashier does well moving the line. When Karen gets to the register, the show begins. She asks for a few packs of Misties or Virginia Slims, or one of those cigarettes that are marketed toward older women who wear glasses on chains and smell like gin. The store didn't carry them.
Well, I spoke to the manager, Melissa, the other day, and she said she'd order them on Monday. It's Wednesday. Where are they?
Karen's voice was already raised. The cashier stayed calm. No one named Melissa works here, but I'll look in back. By this time, a considerable line had formed, mostly either construction workers, day laborers, or folks headed to one of the nearby factories. That is, people who didn't have time for this shit. Most, including myself, started grumbling. Apparently, this was a violation of Karen's most cherished pride. She turned around with wild eyes which sharply contrasted against her Goodwill blouse and mom shorts.
I waited in line behind 6 people, so now you're going to wait for me. I don't want to hear a bunch of grumbling from some men because their vaginas are sore.
I heard some guy say, Jesus fucking Christ, and nice attitude, lady. Against my better judgment, I said, man, we're all just trying to get to work. This was a disrespect most dire in the eyes of Karen. She gets into my face and says something along the lines of,
I don't fucking care, not everything is about you.
I remember the exact quote because nothing has made me so angry in public in such a long time. Now, I'm not a violent or mean person. I used to be. I pride myself on the strides I've made towards being a nice, friendly person. All I could do was laugh as my hands started seriously shaking with the effort to contain myself. She storms off. The cashier apologizes to me for the woman's behavior, which makes Karen stop and turn around at the door.
Don't apologize for me, honey. I can handle myself.
Apparently, one or more of the men were shaking their heads.
Don't shake your head at me, she said, which was met with a loud, I'll do whatever the fuck I want.
The cashier didn't charge me for my coffee. While I walked to my car, Karen leaned on her horn and waved at me. I'm so proud of myself for not giving in to my urge to make an even bigger scene. Some people. Who wakes up and decides to ruin strangers' days? 4. This tale comes from my very first job as a gym receptionist. It was a pretty plum gig, especially since the company paid above minimum wage. I worked the morning shift, which meant I was in charge of unlocking the building, making coffee, and signing in members as they arrived. Mostly, members like to hit the gym before work or join our semi-regular yoga class. In the pre-COVID times, a few people stopped to chat with me, but most just greeted me with a polite good morning and shared their name for sign-in. The member in this story, our entitled man, had never been polite, but he usually just breezed past me and snapped out his name. Whatever, I'm still getting paid to deal with you. During 2020, we changed our policies for safety reasons. Now members were required to sign up at no extra costs for yoga classes at least 12 hours beforehand so that we could coordinate with our instructor. She worked freelance and was a mom, so if nobody signed up, it really wasn't worth her time to come in so early and hope for walk-ins. And since we were doing contact tracing, I needed an accurate class list. Members could sign up online or just call the front desk as long as they signed up by the night before class was scheduled. We advertised and enforced the new rules heavily. If someone showed up without a sign-up, it was my job to tell them about the new policy and teach them how to sign up. For the most part, this wasn't a problem. 95% of my regulars understood that I was a cog in the machine, and the machine was doing what it had to in order to stay open. Then one morning, the entitled man breezed into the gym, snapped his name, and tried to walk to the yoga room. But there was one problem. He wasn't on the list. The conversation went as followed. Excuse me, sir? What? As part of our new COVID policies, we're asking all members to sign up ahead of time for... What? This is ridiculous. He starts pacing up and down the hall, muttering to himself about talking to Eric about this. He stops pacing and starts drilling his finger into my desk, leaning over said desk. Do you know who I am? How much I pay for this place? I'm terrified and try to de-escalate. I'll add you to the list today, but... Good. He walked to yoga class. I kept an ear out in case he decided to go off on the yoga teacher. Thankfully, he was cheerful with her, but I won't lie, it scared me how quickly he could go from rage to cheer. I decided to stay out of sight for the duration of the class, but once my awesome boss got in for the day, I asked to see her. She was the kind of person who would not tolerate members bullying staff, so when I started crying in her office, she was ready to go to war. I told her everything that happened, and I asked if the entitled man was some sort of VIP, and if she knew who Eric was. Was he the owner of our parent company or something? Nope. Turns out the entitled man paid our lowest tier membership fees, and there was nobody named Eric with any hiring or firing power at our company anymore. There had been years ago, but that guy retired. I thought Awesome Boss was just going to call the entitled man and read him the riot act, but instead she asked me if I wanted to file a report with HR. Heck yes, I wanted this on file. This man nearly took my head off just because he couldn't be bothered to sign up in advance. A few weeks later, I heard about the fallout. Turns out I wasn't the only staff member that he had tried to bully. He had quite the file with HR, apparently. So my general manager, Awesome Boss's boss, called the entitled man and told him the facts of life. Short version, don't upset the staff, as it won't end well for you. Sadly, while he towed the line with me from then on, he still tried to bully the girl who replaced me when I left for another job. I'm so glad I warned her about him because she knew exactly what to do. Hello, HR, I need to file a report. You might be wondering why previous reports didn't get him booted. For the record, I haven't kept up contact with fellow co-workers, so I'm not sure if he's actually still a member. Here's what I know for sure. I was the first person in my department, we had a gym, restaurant, etc., to report him. I don't know if he was already banned from the other areas of the business or not, but I can say for sure that he was on very thin ice after the second report from the gym. His wife had to essentially babysit him every time he came to the gym because he obviously couldn't be trusted to act like a grown-up. He was the main account holder, but his wife and child were freaking angels. The best regulars I could have asked for, friendly, cleaned up after themselves, even helped me refill paper towels and such. So their good reputation was the only thing that saved him. Knowing my awesome boss, she would have been the one to insist on the chaperoning clause, because she did not like him at all. 5. This happened a few years ago when I was right out of college. I had a part-time job producing and managing weekly events for a local business, and I was looking to turn it into a full-time career. I ended up partnering with a local publication for the launch of what was going to be an annual community event. The deal was I'd basically be an unpaid intern for the first year, getting compensation in the form of experience, industry connections, and a few other fun perks, plus the promise of paid work for future events. I knew it was a gamble, but I decided to take a chance on the offer, and it turned out to be great for both of us. I was given a large event budget to work with, and treated me as an equal throughout the process. Plus, the business owner, M, basically became my personal mentor. The event was a huge success. I was offered paying gigs with the company, and I stayed quite close with M. She took me under her wing, and through her I managed to get a good amount of work, either on projects she would bring me onto directly, or through people she introduced me to. After a few weeks, she mentioned that she was looking to hire a full-time assistant, and my ears perked up immediately. I already knew her business pretty well, and if I was working for her company, then I could also do more to assist on projects. It's a win-win. I didn't want her to think that I felt entitled to the job, though, so the next day, I handed her a printed copy of my full resume, portfolio, and references, and she said she'd look it over. Months passed and she didn't mention it, so I figure she must have decided on someone else for the office. Until one day, she proposes another deal to me. I work as her assistant, full-time, for free, for 6 months. And she would only offer me a paid job as her assistant if I prove for 6 months that I can add value to her business. Try to swing it as the only logical way for her to be able to offer me the job. I told her I literally wasn't able to do that as I have my actual job to go to and bills to pay, and she took it very badly, crying, begging me to help her company, just really laying it on thick that I owed her for everything she'd done for me. I said, that's not how this works. I won't do a full-time job for free again, after I've already proven my value to the team several times over. I was done doing her favors from there. We didn't talk as much after that, and she ended up hiring her friend's daughter who was completely unexperienced and unqualified. The next time I saw her, we met up to grab dinner and catch up, and she wouldn't stop complaining about how terrible the assistant was. But frustrated she couldn't fire her because then her friend would be mad. I couldn't help but feel smug about that. She tried to pressure me into doing work for free, and now she's stuck paying for someone who is terrible at the job. I said it's a shame she couldn't find a more qualified candidate, but she must add value to the team, or else she wouldn't be paying her, right? Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Idiots in the Wild, episode 116. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. If you'd be so good as to press the like button before you go, I would appreciate it. I may give you a hug if I ever meet you. It could be a lot of hugs depending how many people press the like button. And before I forget, I want to give a little shout out to the author of story number 5. They're actually a very talented musician, very talented. And I will have a link to their album on Apple Music. You can also find it on Spotify, I believe. But I'll include the Apple link and you can click along and give it a listen. I hope you enjoyed their music, I certainly did. Okay, now let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is, what is your favorite summertime drink that you don't really get any other time of the year, but you really do enjoy it? For me, it's like crushed ice with watermelon and some other stuff. I think it was Costa that did it. It was a local place anyway. And I would never buy it any other time unless it was really, really hot. Because it's the kind of thing, you're out and about, you're like, I'm melting. I need something cool. Also refreshing. Hey, look, that store sells refreshing things. So I get it out. I got it out of there, and I don't know if I'll ever buy it again because I'm not really near that place a lot. But if I am, I might. So let me know, what are your favorite drinks that you don't buy a lot because it's like a summertime thing? Please leave your answers in a comment below. And with that, I'm gonna head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.